I'm Jolly, and Tony's not here today. He's breaking my heart, doing adult things someplace else. But he'll be back next week. And so this week instead, I have a couple guests on to not play games today, but to talk about how to get your table ready. Yes, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So, welcome to Table Ready. As I said, this is Jolly. Tony will be back next week. And today, to fill in for Tony, I have my first guest, Sam.
Hey.
All right, so we have Sam here. He is a regular at Guardtower East, correct?
Yes, indeed.
So, Sam is a nerd, which is why I welcomed him on. I hope you're not offended by that, Sam.
No, I can wear that term with pride.
All right. So one of the things we're going to talk about tonight, as I said, is getting your table ready, which means you know what game you're going to play, and how do you get to the point where you put on a good-looking game that is immersive and also fun?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's what we're looking at. I invited Sam on the show because Sam plays quite a few games.
A lot of different games, oh yeah.
What are some of your favorites, Sam?
Well, I have really gotten in the past year into Star Wars Legion. I really have loved the alternating activation systems that game has. I found myself painting up a legion of B-1 battle droids.
A legion of stuff for Legion?
Exactly. I needed to get them table ready very quickly because Tony was actually doing an escalation league this time last year for Legion, so we needed to hit certain points values at certain times, and you scored additional points for the league if you had your stuff fully painted. So that was a big incentive, and so I learned a lot about cutting out the things that weren't needed when it came to getting stuff table ready, you know?
And I assume your cutting out things that aren't needed is different from mine, because mine used to be just don't paint the models.
I do love painting. Like
Okay.
it's honestly, I love painting miniatures, and the fact that there are games that goes with this stuff is a great bonus.
That's awesome.
For me, I've been painting since as long as I've been in the hobby, since I was maybe 12, 13, and you know, even when I didn't have anyone to play games with, like when I was out in college in Iowa, I was still painting because I just loved painting so much.
Just you in the cornfields enjoying some painting and
Maybe not
hobbying?
in the middle of the cornfields, but yeah, basically.
Okay.
I went to college out in Grinnell, Iowa, so like it would get real cold, and I was just, you know, nobody else is playing Warhammer out in Grinnell, Iowa, but I could sit in my dorm and paint, and I love that, and so I've continued to paint, and love Legion, play Warhammer 40,000 as well. I have also amassed a pretty sizable army of Stormcasts for Age of Sigmar that were also an exercise in just kind of getting a fast result very quickly.
Okay. So, Sam, besides the fact that you're a nerd and you play many games, one of the reasons I wanted you to be on the show is to show off some of the stuff that you've done.
Certainly. Any opportunity to
So
show
go
off
ahead
this
and
stuff.
get out some of your miniatures.
Yeah,
Some of the things that you have poured time into
Yeah.
and hope, I'm guessing.
Yeah, no, they're my pride and joy are my Imperial Fists.
And this is what I wanted him to bring. So we're going to switch over to the Epoch Cam. So, Sam, as you can see right there, is going to be a way for you to show these miniatures off to our audience. And I want you to show them off because this yellows are difficult to paint, at least in my opinion.
Well, they don't have to be. Hopefully, that's what I'm on here to help clear up. Is there's all of these colors are achievable now very easily through things that don't involve an airbrush or expensive equipment whatsoever. But we can get into that as we go.
So do me a favor, show off one of the what do we have here?
These are the Blade Guard. The Blade Guard are kind of the elite Space Marine unit that debuted in the Indomitus box set that came out in 2020, about 3 years ago now. And I was really smitten with them as soon as the models came out. I loved the kind of knightly robes. I loved the big shields that most of them have. And I was really desperate to get them into my force as quickly as possible. So, of course, I only just finished painting a unit of these about a month ago. But, yeah, these are a lot of fun. They get to express all the stuff I really love about Space Marines, the kind of heraldic elements, the knightly aspects of their design that I really, really enjoy. You'll notice that the robes are two-toned. On the front, they're kind of the cream off-white, and on the back, they're red. And that's a deliberate reference to the Black Templars, whose veterans wear the cream and red robes as well. So I wanted to tie them in the painting in narratively.
Now, before you move the camera, I want you to also show off this apothecary.
Oh,
right
yeah,
here,
yeah.
Because he is painted mostly white, which is another one of those difficult colors to paint.
Yeah. So the apothecary was another interesting exercise. I had never painted a miniature with the predominant color of white before. And so I kind of tackled it in the most logical way that I knew how, which was to do what I do with my Imperial Fist, just adapt the colors to suit the miniature. So for this model in particular, what I did is I sprayed it with a white spray paint, and then I washed it with the contrast paint from Games Workshop Apothecary White. I know people have issues with some of Games Workshop's paints, but I really love the contrast line, or speed paints, or whatever, whatever all the alternatives that other companies have come out with. I think they're an excellent tool in the toolbox. So I washed the whole thing with Apothecary White, which kind of got those muted shadows. And then what I did, and this is my favorite technique of all, I dry brushed. I dry brushed the whole miniature with a lighter shade of white, which evened everything out. It picks up the raised edges. It's incredibly user-friendly. You don't have to worry about thinning paints or getting the right mixture of paint. It's just about making sure you have enough paint off your paintbrush and then just running it along until you have a consistency that you like. Some people don't like the dusty effect that dry brushing gives, how it kind of gives a little bit of unintended texture to the armor, but I really enjoy that effect. I think it breaks up these big solid blocks of color while still leaving the depths in the recesses. So the yellow that I have done on these guys is very similar to the white. What I do is I spray them a bone color, whether it's wraith bone is what I use, but you can use any off-white or white. Then I take an entire coat of Iyanden yellow, which is another GW contrast paint.
What hue of yellow would that be? Would it be a bright yellow or a dark yellow?
I think it's a pretty bright yellow. The shadows that come out are very, very orange, which I really like. I didn't want kind of brownish shadows. I didn't want kind of blackish shadows. I wanted orange shadows to kind of get the warmer tones, especially to contrast with the base. So once I've washed the whole miniature with Iyanden yellow, I then dry brush a very pale yellow, Hexos Pale Sun, which is another GW paint. Again, you can use any sort of light off yellow that you want to use. And then I glaze it down with Vallejo Game Inks yellow. They have a yellow game ink that serves as a really great glaze that makes all of this pop and shine really nicely. And then from there, it's just about finishing up the details, the guns, the mechanical bits, the leather pouches, and just trying to make as few mistakes as I can into the yellow. But yeah, no, it's dry brushing is a really easy technique that just about anybody can do. I recommend it very strongly, especially people who are either getting started or just want to get stuff on the tabletop fast.
Okay.
It also plays a part in that technique that's kind of sweeping the nation, the slap chop technique, if you've heard about that.
Yep.
That's all based on dry brushing, successive layers, and underpainting before you apply the contrast paints.
So quick, do you mind if I move these around a little bit?
Please.
So real quick, just so everybody can kind of see.
Oh yeah, that's much better.
What you've got right there.
Yeah. And there's much more than this, but this is what I could fit in my army bag tonight.
So with these models right here, about how long would you say it took you to paint these models? So all the ones that you have right here, an estimate's fine because I know.
Estimate.
You're like, Sam's like an estimate. 12 hours, 52 minutes,
Yeah,
38 seconds.
I'm putting the numbers together in my head. I'd say this amount of points was probably 4 to 5 months, but you could cut that down radically because I really. Do
you mind if I pick them
please
up?
go ahead. They're all magnetized, so you might have to give a little bit more effort than usual. I still went in, and even though I take shortcuts on the main color, I really do like to, I take shortcuts in the main color because I really do like to do the detail work. I love putting the little blood effects on the cloth like you see there. All the highlights for the things that aren't yellow are picked out individually. I have so many layers that the gold goes through. It's not just a standard Retributor gold. But again, you can cut all that stuff out and you would still have a great looking army. There's so many techniques that level the playing field, that let you get things on the table fast. Dry brushing, slap chop, contrast paints have obviously changed the entire game in terms of how fast you can get stuff painted nowadays. And it's just about finding a level that you're comfortable with, and then being able to work on the speed.
Okay. So, all right. So here's a question I wish I would have thought up a little bit ahead of time, because this could have made a good segment for tonight's show. But if you had to paint up a Space Marine, say one of the standard ones right here,
Yeah.
how quickly do you think you could paint one up?
How
We're
quickly?
saying
Man.
table ready quality, which is what? 3
Table ready, I would say.
which is 3 colors and based, correct?
3 colors and based. I think I could probably hour tops. I could probably do it in an hour, maybe an hour and a half, if I really did want to make sure that it was still like, there are certain obsessive compulsive things that like I would still want to do, but I mean, Space Marines are such a great army for people who are just getting into the hobby, because they really are kind of pick a color and go. You can really get so much of the work done by just picking a color, spraying it that color, hitting it with a wash, and then just picking out the details.
Okay.
And that's really forgiving. And I mean, there are tutorials online that are incredible where you can get Space Marines done in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and just get through an army in not a weekend, but maybe a month. You could just.
So what I'm hearing is it sounds like at some point in the future we should have a paint-off between.
Oh.
We'll have you back on for the paint-off, Sam.
I'd love that.
But the paint-off will be literally all of us in the room. Sean, I'm pointing at you. Clay, I'm pointing at you. Clay, I'm pointing at you. Clay, I'm pointing at you.
Not a good idea.
Let
the fans decide.
We'll let the fans decide. Oh, maybe that's what we'll do. We'll say who.
Get Tony too. Tony's
Oh, we're definitely going to have
absolutely.
Tony in on
Well,
this.
Tony's a huge adherent of the slap top thing.
But what we'll do is a paint-off. We'll have a selection. We'll make it like one of those chef shows where they have
We all get the
30
same
Where
ingredients.
they have 30 seconds to go pick out their paints and their models and everything from the table, what you want to paint, your brushes and everything. You get like 3 minutes for that, and you got to go back to your table and paint it up the best you can. As,
I like that
Our
idea.
Gordon Ramsay. Clay, you could be our Gordon Ramsay look like.
our Gordon Ramsay.
Yelling at everybody to do better. But you call that highlight? That's not highlight. So we can do things like that.
Yeah.
So if I would have thought about the students, this would have been a segment on tonight's show. But it just now hit me, and I think that would be good. So
I'd love that. I would love that.
well,
Let me know
we
when
know
that
what we're
is
doing
and-
when we invite you back, Sam.
Absolutely.
Now, I saw you a couple minutes ago reaching down to your bag as if you had more stuff to show off.
Unfortunately, this is all I brought with me tonight, but I was just checking to make sure that there wasn't more. But yeah, everything, I have about just, I think, 2,600 points of painted Imperial Fists. And
So for people who aren't familiar with
that's a good
40K,
point. Yeah,
how
yeah.
many models would 2,600 points be?
oh God, it's like well over 50. It's like 50 or 60 models, and that's including 1 or 2 really massive vehicles. I've got some aircraft for it. I've got some heavier infantry. I've got some Terminators that are like roughly the size of these guys, but a little bit more ornate, so they've got more detail. There's more characters, and there's some stuff that really breaks up the color palette of the army. I really do like doing one-off characters and units that break things up. Like I've got my executioner guy here. He's in black, and he's got that little bit of yellow that ties him in with the rest of the force. But if you can find ways to keep yourself interested, I've found that's, especially if you're working on a long-term project, like I suspect this isn't as much a problem with Dungeons and Dragons miniatures, where you're painting one thing or maybe a couple of one thing, but then you can move on to like doing something different. When you're trying to do an army, there's definitely that sense of fatigue, where I'm painting my 40th battle droid and I'm just tired of this mess.
What? Tired of battle droids?
I'm tired of
I
it.
don't
But
believe
if you
that.
find a way to make yourself interested, again, through just minor variations, things like for my battle droids, I had to find a way to mark each one of them differently for the different units, so I got to come up with different colors on the shoulder pads, and even just that little splotch of color helped give the units a bit more personality. It let me test out some different colors that I really wouldn't get to use normally, and it was a lot of fun. So there's always ways to keep yourself interested and not make it feel like you're just kind of chewing the same cud over and over and over again. So.
All right. Well, our yak enjoys chewing cud.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's not the worst thing in the world. All right. So Sam,
Yeah.
what we'll do real quick. I have something.
Happy to scoot.
I don't want to kick them off camera.
No, it's okay.
But
You
this-
invited them.
this
You,
next
you
part-
brought them into this world. You can
So
take them out.
Here's what I want to know. I want you to. So you went through how you painted those.
Yes.
So anybody who's interested in knowing Sam's technique, you could, when the recording goes up, you can rewind it to that part and watch it again. And
I'll provide you with a list of paints that
Provide
I
us
use
the-
as well. And you can put that in the description.
I'm gonna
if
say,
you want.
Clay, can we put that in the description, YouTube description, so anybody is curious? Now, the other thing I want to know is, since this is how to get things table ready, not only am I having you and also here soon Sean show off what you've already done, I want your opinions on how would you prepare something. So right here we just have
We got a beholder.
we have a beholder. So can we go? All right, you're ahead of the game, Clay. You're a good man. I don't care what Sean says. But what we have here is a D&D beholder. This is a I believe it's by WizKids. It's a Forgotten Realms figure, and
I love these, by the way. These are so great.
The interesting thing about them that I like is that they come already pre-primed. Now that doesn't mean you can't prime it more if you want, but the nice thing is, since it's already pre-primed, you won't accidentally prime over top of these without having to tape them.
Yeah.
And he's got his little eyelid that'll go over top of his eye too after you paint his eye.
Yeah.
So, but what I want to know is this particular beholder, if you were to paint him up in something that's table ready, I want you to kind of talk about and point out what you would do to prepare him
Yeah,
for the table.
absolutely. So what's really great about the WizKids line of Dungeons & Dragons miniatures, I've had the pleasure of painting a couple of these myself, is that they have some really fantastic texture on them. I mean, even the inside of the mouth is textured. You can see the jaw is textured, the teeth are all different shapes, his skin has these lovely little bumps and wrinkles on it, and that's really essential when you want to kind of get a miniature looking good very quickly. So what I would do to tackle this is, even though it comes pre-primed, I would probably base coat it in black.
Okay.
I used to work from a black base coat for all my miniatures. I've kind of mixed it up now, but black is a really good starting point, especially if you're just trying to get something done fast, because you can disguise anything you don't paint as just a shadow. As long as it makes sense for it to be there, if there's a part you can't reach or a section that doesn't easily take to paint, you can just say, oh, it's a shadow. That's it.
It's a shadow? Okay.
Because if you were to spray paint it white and you were to leave any section blank, that stands out much more than a little
All right.
black
So
section.
what you're saying then is you would start with a black, like
I'd
a
start-
matte black.
A matte black.
But you would prime it probably with a spray instead of
Probably.
paint it with one of these?
I'd try and mask off this really nice transparent stand so that it didn't get any of the black spray paint on it, because I do like to use spray primers. I don't quite have enough room in my apartment yet for an airbrush, and that's kind of advanced as well. But from there, I would probably, if I was just trying to get this table ready as quickly as possible, I would probably go back to the aforementioned slap chop technique, because again,
So for slap chop,
Yeah.
explain that really quickly to people who aren't familiar with it.
so, yep, so yeah, you would prime the mini black,
So
and then you would dry brush it with,
The only reason I asked is WizKids says don't prime the mini.
oh, okay.
what's that?
WizKids says that it's already primed.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
So I don't know if you can hear Sean from back there because we don't have a mic on him, but he was commenting that the package says already primed,
But you
but
want to prime.
but Sean says they're liars because the primer just isn't that good.
So yeah, you'll get to parts where the paint doesn't stick to them.
Okay, so if you don't prime it yourself, it sounds like there's going to be parts where the paint doesn't
Yeah.
stick to it.
And to be clear, you can prime stuff. Yeah, you can prime stuff by hand. You can spray paint it. If you've got an airbrush, you can do that. Probably most people who are just starting out don't have an airbrush. I mean, I've been in the hobby now for over 15 years, and I don't have an airbrush, so it's not a required tool at all. But however you get this model black, I would get it black.
Okay.
And now the slap chop technique is where you take a kind of a medium gray, exactly like this. This is a Pro Acryl neutral gray, which would be perfect for this job. And what you would do is
Like
you
I'm
would,
prepared for
you
this
would
part.
dry brush the entire miniature all over. You would dry brush the entire miniature, which means that you would put a good amount of paint on your paintbrush. You want something that has a wide bristle. It doesn't have to be a nice paintbrush. It can be something you got from the dollar store. It can be something you got from a hardware store. Or you can use makeup brushes. Makeup brushes are fantastic for dry brushing because they don't leave the same sort of scratchy marks that I like so much, because I know there are other people who don't like that. But then you would dry brush over the entire miniature, going very lightly, making sure to pick up all the raised edges. And you would start to see the texture emerge as you're dry brushing this gray all over the black model. Now there would still be some sections that this brush could not reach, like the back of the mouth there probably wouldn't be able to be gray, but that's okay because that's exactly the place where a natural shadow
Because that would be, like you said, shadow then.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then you would want to take a slightly lighter gray, like the gray that you're passing to me now, which is perfect. This is a bright gray, also from Pro Acro, but you could use, say, Administratum gray if you're using Citadel paints. And then you can directionally dry brush everything on the model that would be hit by light. Like, let's say if our light source is the sun, it's going to be above the miniature here. And so you would just kind of look down at the miniature from a bird's eye view and just dry brush the parts that you can see from that same angle. Now what that does is it gets you a natural highlight so that when you finally do start applying colors through contrast paints, like say Gryph-hound Orange, the top part is going to be more saturated, it's going to be brighter, and the darker parts further away from the light source are going to be darker. So it creates a naturalistic highlight that just is pleasing to the eye. You'll still pick out, you won't lose any of the detail or texture on the model, and you'll have that really great kind of natural effect where the light source is coming from above. Now, if you wanted to do something like creepy and you know, next level, you could like dry brush from the bottom like it's being underlit. But the same principle still applies. And then what you would do once you were done with both levels of dry brushing is you would hit it with whatever your chosen color of contrast paint is. For this model, I'd probably go with, say, a Gryph-hound Orange, a Blood Angels Red. Beholders are known for their really bright, vivid coloring. They're not really naturalistic monsters. Yeah, Ball Red would be great for this. Now, the only part about dry brushing and the slap chop techniques that is a little bit iffy and a little bit difficult is that you need to be very careful about how you apply the contrast paints. Because any mistakes that you make, because it's like a coloring book, any mistakes that you make, like if I got any red on the eye, I would need to go back and do that same process of the dark gray and then the light gray to build that back up and conceal that again.
Okay.
So it can be, I wouldn't say unforgiving, but you definitely need to take your time, still be patient. This is the fastest way to get results, but you still can't rush through it. You've got to be pretty smart about it and pretty economical in your application of paint.
So after some practice,
Yep.
with the slap chop method or a zenithal method, which is really similar, we won't go into the details on that. You'd probably be able to get a model like this table ready in about an hour, right?
Oh yeah, less than an hour, I'd say, for something like this. What's great about the Beholder is that it really, you know, it's all of this is flesh, teeth, mouth color, eye. That's it.
Okay.
And so you could do that really, really quickly. But what's cool about the slap chop technique is that it still leaves the door open if you want to come back later and add more detail.
Do more detail. So
Exactly.
it's your basic table readiness is what
Yes.
it is. That, as you said, leaves the door open so that way you could go back and add more details later.
Yep.
So if you want everything to look good on the tabletop, you can prepare everything with the slap chop method,
Yep.
a zenithal method, or just like a highlight and contrast method.
Yes,
And
I've gotten zombies from the same line of models done. What's great about it is, like you said, you can go back and add more details later.
Yep. All right. So thank you for going through how you would paint up the Beholder,
Yeah.
which is a pretty standard model of your D&D
It's a great
player.
sculpt as well.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten my hands on this one yet. This is really nice. I love the tongue. The tongue is great. The tongue is fantastic.
All right. So I have one more question for you then.
Yeah.
Terrain on your game boards.
Terrain.
What kind of terrain do you enjoy on your game boards?
Well, the terrain that I really enjoy is the terrain that is provided to me by the Guardtower West and East. That's what I really like. I love the...
So at the store?
Yes, I'll be honest with you, I really don't play a lot of games at home. I really love, one of the biggest positives of this hobby for me is interacting with people and getting to meet them at a location and say, hey, I'm gonna bring this and you bring this and this is the kind of game I'm looking for and let's play. And, you know, not to be a shill, but this is true, I go to the Guardtower for these experiences. And the Guardtower is a buffet of really nice terrain that's been painted or acquired and modeled, and I love populating boards with that terrain. For my own use, when I'm painting terrain, I haven't painted terrain for years now, but I would probably, what's great about terrain is that there's so much dust and dirt. Most of the things that we paint are for use on a battlefield. You know, Dungeons and Dragons obviously a little bit different because you've got, you know, taverns and more civilized areas, but terrain, larger buildings.
So you're using,
Well,
out of all the settings,
using
you're like,
civilized in
the
loose
D&D
loose terms.
setting is so much more civilized
I mean,
than 40K.
I feel safe in
so-
Baldur's Gate. Don't you feel safe? I feel safe in Baldur's Gate. But there is a level of dirt and grime that's on everything. I mean, you walk outside, you look at a building, and there's dirt and dust around the lower levels, and most buildings are not these multicolored, detailed affairs like, you know, your clothing and my clothing or the Space Marine armor, like, which has different textures and different things on it. Individually, we're a riot of color. We have all these different things on us, but buildings are monolithic. Buildings are one color, two color, maximum. You know, maybe an exterior color and an interior color.
All right. So what I want to do then, since you have terrain you like, but you
Yes.
haven't painted it up any terrain
Years,
yourself in
it's
a
been
while,
years, yeah.
what I'm going to do as the kind of segue into our break and then having Sean on for the next part is I want to show off some different types of terrain that I bought
Yeah,
today.
hit me.
And most of these pieces of terrain are not finished because I wanted to show you options that you could have kind of out of the box. And then you can apply the painting methods that we've already talked about to get them table ready.
Yeah.
So the first thing I have, I'm going to start kind of from the easiest to get
Yes.
table ready, is going to be right here, what we kind of look at, it's a thick cardboard type
Yes.
terrain.
Infinity does this, right?
Yeah, Infinity does this. There are different types of, there's different companies that you can buy the terrain for. And yeah, here we are. I brought one of them. It's one of them is Battle Systems. So Battle Systems is one that does different things for fantasy and sci-fi. And what it is everything comes on pieces of cardstock or cardboard that are just as thick as what you see here, and you punch them out and you put them together. And they make pretty decent looking quick terrain.
I love these personally. I got a look at that new Infinity terrain set that came out 2 weeks ago, and it's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. The stuff that the printers can do now, it's detailed, it's lifelike. You know, the only thing that would even maybe partially harm your immersion is just that it is, you know, adherent to the cardboard, but that's the only negative. I adore this stuff.
Yeah, the nice thing about this, the thing I really like about this, and I do own a lot of this, is it's something that you can put together really quickly and have table ready because it's already pre-collared and everything. So just at a quick glance, it looks good on a table, and it can make for, if you want tables that are denser in terrain, you can get a lot of that terrain to make a dense table. I have this one and that other lake house I showed you just so I can make kind of like a swamp board with walkways everywhere. So that's why I bought a bunch of these.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's fairly inexpensive as far as hobby products go.
Yes,
it is. This is cardboard, and paper is cheap, people. Paper is cheap.
So lake house here, I think I had picked it up. It's $30 at most for the lake house, which is the house I just showed you. Some of these boardwalks, you get a little boat, and then you get some lakes,
and
little
you get the
ponds and
sawmill.
everything. Yep.
You like
So there's a bunch of different things. Now, so that's the first type.
Yep.
Then there's another type of terrain that's easy to assemble, but you have to put a little more work into it. And Sean has some of this that he's going to be showing off of something later on. But it's called MDF terrain.
Do you know what MDF stands for? I'm not trying to quiz you. I don't remember. We've all just taken to calling it MDF for so long.
We've taken called MDF for
I've
so long.
forgotten what the acronym stands for.
It's like ATM when people say ATM machine and don't realize machine's part of ATM.
Yeah.
Density fiberboard.
There we
Medium
go.
density fiberboard. So what we have, they are kind of like these wooden boards, kind of like what your IKEA furniture is made out of.
And they're laser cut, right?
And they're laser cut,
Yeah.
which the only downside about laser cut sometimes is sometimes you get a little bit of soot on them, but it's not that big of a deal. You can either wipe it off, or what also works is if you have a clear coat spray or hairspray, you can just spray it and it'll kind of seal that.
I made my terrain with lasers, Mr. Powers.
I'm only interested though if those lasers are attached to sharks' heads.
Exactly.
Then we just have some weird terrain that looks like a jaggedy slab of wood. But so these are easy to put together. And the one thing I forgot to mention about the last one, which was the cardboard, is that the nice thing about a bunch of MDF and cardboard pieces is that you don't always need glue. I still always glue these together just because then I don't have to worry about them falling apart. But they make really good platforms, and you can get a bunch of other good terrain out of MDF also. And it's also pretty affordable, and it's strong. So you could have your 8-pound pewter models from the 80s tramping around on these, and you're good to go.
I know a company that does a lot of these is Death Ray Designs. They do a lot of really interesting MDF stuff.
There's Death Ray Designs, there's TT Combat, which
all sorts of
I
stuff.
brought the TT Combat in, as we can see, it makes this Ruined Cathedral.
Now, it is important to note, especially for painting purposes, that where the cardboard stuff comes and it's already very lifelike and ready to go, the MDF terrain is, to a fault, unpainted.
Yep.
So you're going to have to, if you do want to give it a little bit more life, you will have to paint it.
Yep. So not the end of the world. I mean, something
No,
like
not at
something
all.
like this that is just a basic platform or even some sort of building. You're fine to leave it at this color if
Yep.
you need something to work right off
Oh
the
yeah,
bat.
no, that.
But then you can also paint these up. And once again, I keep on referring to Sean. Sean's going to show off something amazing here soon that he used MDF terrain for and painted up. It looks like it's painted at least, right? Yep. So that's MDF terrain.
Yeah.
Now, we also have other terrains that you can buy in packages, and I'm going to
Okay.
show off some of these packaged terrains.
Oh, I love this stuff.
Such as Monster Scenery has stuff like these trees. Now, I don't actually own a Monster Scenery. I just grabbed it from the store. Does it come pre-painted like this?
Oh yeah, that's the appeal.
So this is spectacular. You got your
yeah.
trees, which could be dead trees, or you could put the canopies of leaves on them. You get a little
like a lake.
forested lake area that you can put in there. And does it flip over to make the
One's like
forest
grass.
terrain also?
Yeah, one's this forest base and the other.
So one of the big things about gaming, war games, if you're not super familiar with it, is a lot of times you'll have a template like this that represents the forest, and you put the trees on there just to make it look better. But that way you can move the trees off if something moves through it. So that way you don't have this foresty terrain kind of blocking off things. But this is an affordable thing. Actually, this is a little more pricey.
It's a little more pricey
the other-
because, you know, they're taking the opportunity cost of the time you would spend on painting the scenery away. So that's where the cost comes in. But I mean, their scenery is gorgeous. That scenery has made many tables here at Guardtower East, I know for a fact.
So
It's
we've got
gorgeous.
that. We've also got
I've never seen
things like this,
these.
which is Warlock tiles. And these
is
are made
this?
more specifically for D&D, but they'll work with like indoor terrain settings also. But there are these tiles that, as we can see, it's a room in an inn or a building that you buy. And the D&D size figures with the 1-inch bases work really well on these. And as we can see, if you want to see what we think about this item, there you go. We'll hold that there for a second so you can check it out. But this is available.
Are these pre-painted?
These are pre-painted also.
wow.
Once again, a little more pricey, but that's because you're getting the completely table-ready product.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that we have as far as kits you could buy is something like this, which is our Games Workshop kit. Now, we still got the shiny gloss plastic on it and everything, so you're going to see my reflection as I look at this. Hey, how's it going? And what this is, they show you this amazing looking terrain, and it looks great after you assemble it.
Yep.
But it's on sprues, and it's going to be a great plastic, so you have to put in the effort of painting this. Now, GW, Games Workshop, isn't known for super cheap prices, but it is fantastic. They're fantastic kits. They go together really well. If you want to put in the time to paint them up, they are fantastic kits. And this is another type of terrain option you have, is just buying these kits that you assemble.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's the whole kill zone. You can board it.
Yep. So in this one, you will get a few extra things because it's a kill zone. It's kill zone terrain. So there's a couple other things you get, like a board that you play on and stuff too. But this is one of the other things. If you really enjoy the hobby aspect of putting stuff together and painting it, this is kind of one of those kits that you would really like.
The Games Workshop kit's biggest advantage, because it does come unassembled and unpainted, the biggest advantage for those kits is that they are so modular. I mean, Games Workshop, plenty of faults, but that terrain all talks to each other. Like that terrain is completely compatible with like the Zone Mortalis stuff they've released. There are places for you to put those little pipes in. Like it all talks to each other with very little effort. And if you want to make a really nice custom layout, you can do so.
And you can also do what we call kit bashing with that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
So you could
Absolutely.
customize it in different ways if you want it to look different, where it's a little bit tougher to customize the cardboard stuff, because then you would have to paint over top of it, which paint over top
Exactly.
of cardboard.
A little dicey.
Now, relatively recently, we've also gotten another option for terrain. So I brought in a couple examples of this as well, and that is going to be our 3D printed terrain. So I have two types of 3D printed terrain here. For the two pretty much types of 3D printers you will see. So we have the extruder printer, which is the type of 3D printer that's been around longer, but as you can see, the detail on these printers has gotten a lot better. So this is a, yeah,
Wow.
as you can see,
no way.
for D&D or anything,
That's
you
so
can have your
nice.
characters going through the inn. You can hide surprises for them. If you're playing a tabletop game, you can have people fighting through there. And it's really nice, and that's an option. And the great thing about these is this is stuff that you can print yourself.
Yeah.
You can buy STL files for this if you don't know how to
I mean,
make
if you
it
have
from
a 3D
scratch.
printer, that's a pretty large
And this
barrier.
is also stuff that sometimes you can just, this is fun hobby stuff.
Yeah.
Now the other types of terrain I bought here are resin. This is a resin 3D printer that printed these ones. As you can see, the detail on this is better than the detail on this because we can see the ridges kind of where the print lines are. But right here, we don't see really any of those ridges, and this is resin. Now, the nice thing about resin is you get that detail, but it's also more fragile.
Yes.
So it doesn't work as well for these bigger models that you want to be sturdy and hold up, but it works really well for these smaller ones, like a mine shaft entrance or just a rock with a dragon bone on it.
Yeah.
So these are also things that you can do. Now, once again, you have to print them out. You have to know how to clean them because you want to clean them before you prime them.
Yes.
But then you can have some really awesome terrain. And you can combine all these types of terrain too.
Yeah, it's not like you have to use only one type of terrain for your board. I mean, I've seen plenty of really gorgeous boards that use, say, infinity buildings, which go together really nicely and are already painted, with the pre-painted tabletop scenics that you showed off, and it all fits together seamlessly. The important thing is just to be playing on a table that looks lived in. It looks...
A table that you enjoy.
Exactly. A table that's preferably in full color, you know?
I mean, I have definitely had, and would we be able to go back to face cam?
Yeah.
Sweet, thank you. I've definitely had my fair share of games where we used old VHS
Yeah, of
tapes
course.
to stack up and build walls and old ancient blocky pyramids and stuff.
I got a game for you.
My
Is
brother...
there one that uses that kind of stuff?
It's called Zoom Vader.
I know which one. Was it at Gen Con, the one with the little bugs? Yep, it's the one. I saw that.
Scale.
Where you take one of your own cluttered tables and it's already ready for the game because they're little bugs and everything. Yep. But back when it was either buy minis
Yeah.
or buy terrain, and 3D printing in affordable terrain like what we see here wasn't available because 25 years ago you couldn't really find a bunch of stuff like this. You went to like a Joann's Fabric and picked up foam or the little miniature bird
I
houses.
have made many pieces of terrain out of pink insulation foam from Home Depot.
Yep.
And I loved every minute of it.
and it's good stuff, but sometimes, especially as
Well, the pink foam does not hold up under the wargaming strain. It just doesn't. It starts flaking. It starts breaking. It's a real shame.
oh, does it?
Yeah, there's...
I've used the blue foam before, and it holds up pretty well.
So I didn't know we were going to get into terrain. Next time I will have to bring you, I have from like 2004, 2003, an old book called How to Make War Games Terrain. And it has all of these fun little hobby hacks.
I like how you say it, this old book from 2003, and me and Sean are just kind of like, that's
from 20 years
that's
ago.
old now. That is
It's from
older,
20
I
years
guess.
ago.
Yeah.
And it's so great because it just talks you through like how to use a hot wire cutter, how to use PVA glue to do basing, and like that stuff was just like my brother and I spent hours trying to make our own terrain following the guides of this book, and that was an incredibly valuable learning experience. So
About a year ago, Terrain Tutor came out with a book like you're talking about.
Terrain
Beautiful.
Tutor.
It is
So
absolutely awesome.
sounds like there's a book called
have to
Terrain
get it.
Tutor that Sean just told us about that has a lot of how-to guides for making terrain just like that.
Last year.
the ultimate, the cheapest of all of the options that you've displayed here is making your own terrain. That's always going to be the least expensive in terms of money spent. But in terms of time invested, the opportunity cost is much greater. You'll be spending that time making terrain when instead you could be working on armies or hanging out with your friends and family or doing something like that. But just like with making an army, that terrain will be yours and only yours, and nobody else will have anything like it. So,
All right. So, Sam,
yes.
before we go to break and say thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you.
I want
Thank you
you
for inviting
to
me.
your top tips, top quick tips.
Stop quick tips.
For somebody who is wanting to paint models and doesn't know where to start. So let's say up to 5 top quick tips for the new painter.
In no order. Paint what it is you want to paint. Don't paint things that don't interest you, that bore you, because then you won't see the appeal of this hobby and you'll get burnt out very quickly. Secondly, learn about dry brushing. Dry brushing is immensely important. You'll see incredible results very quickly. You'll feel just like, not instant gratification, but you'll see just where light sources are supposed to go, what bits of raised edges detail that you need to highlight. So many times you'll see a painting guide and says, okay, now highlight all the raised edges, but sometimes you're like, well, does that qualify as a raised edge, or is this I'm seeing him highlighting that, but that doesn't stick out, I don't understand. And that dry brushing will teach you all of that. Third, do not invest in really, really expensive tools until you know that this is the hobby for you. There are tons of great tutorials.
We go to technical difficulties.
Yeah.
The store's like, no, buy the.
Well, it's no. I spent so much money at the Guardtower. No. I'm talking more about getting things like airbrush compressors, 3D printers. That stuff is awesome.
But I sit here sweating as I have an airbrush.
No, and I'm not criticizing you, but you know this is what you want to do. You're going to see a lot of YouTube tutorials that are just like, okay, now fire up your really expensive airbrush, and it's like, you don't need that to start. You need a rattle can and just a couple of paints, and just seek out channels that are for beginners. There's no shame in that. We all started somewhere. I think that counts as 4. I've skipped to 4 now.
Seek out channels. Just in case 4 wasn't clear. Seek out channels.
Channels and online tutorials that are aimed more at beginners. There's no shame in that. Everyone started somewhere. There are great tutorials out there by Duncan Rhodes. There are just incredible tutorials about sponging and weathering techniques that can make your stuff look great from Richard Gray. Obviously, Guardtower is going to do some painting stuff.
About to say, not to interrupt you, I was about ready to ask. Sean, I know Tony was wanting to do some painting stuff. Has he talked to you about that yet? Okay. Well, Tony, I just spoiled your surprise that you were going to tell Sean.
I'm spoiling things and you're not even here. And then the 5th technique is a kind of a little more hippity-dippity, namby-pamby, but truly, just be comfortable with making mistakes. Like, we all make mistakes. I've had the privilege of talking to some of the best painters in North America, not because I'm on their level, but because I just shared a room with them, and they mess up all the time. You make mistakes, it's okay. It's acrylics, you can just paint over it with another color. At the end of the day, we're playing with small little plastic miniatures, and if it's not perfect, that's fine. Your stuff doesn't need to win a golden demon, it just has to be good enough for you. And that's the most important audience.
There we go. Okay. All right, Sam, thank you for being on the show, showing off your minis, talking terrain with
forever.
Me, and talk about paint.
I could talk about painting forever.
I don't take this the wrong way, but I could tell you could talk about painting.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's fair. That's fair. I don't take that the wrong way.
But no, I really appreciate you coming on the show, showing off your Imperial Fist, because when you first showed me those a couple months ago, I was impressed. And
I'm glad. Thank you.
I know you talked about this on a different video that is on Guardtower's YouTube, correct?
Yes.
About you going to New Mexico.
Yes, I went to New Mexico.
So just to let everybody know real quick, we're not going to talk about it now because they can look at that video if they want.
Yeah, please refer to that video.
Sam, by playing in a Kill Team event here at Guardtower East that I ran.
Yes, indeed.
I'm saying that as a boast, but not many people showed up.
But you deserve the credit. You deserve the credit.
He's the reason I went to that.
Yeah. So by playing in the event, by coming out, being social, enjoying the hobby that he did.
I got flown out to New Mexico. I got to stay in a resort.
That allowed you to enter a drawing. To go to a big Games Workshop event in New Mexico.
Yeah.
Fully paid, right?
Yeah, it was fully paid for. It was really incredible, and like I said, the video exists about me talking about that experience, but it goes back to what I was saying earlier, where the most rewarding part of this hobby
is getting to go to New Mexico.
I'm
sorry.
It's about interacting with other people. I love painting miniatures, and I would do it if there was no game, if there was no audience for it. I would still do it myself, but I do love putting my stuff on the table and having somebody go, "Wow, that's incredible. Can I show you what I've painted?" I go, "Yeah, I want to see it." Like, we have two pieces of art that are colliding. I love that. I can't get that from any other hobby in the world.
All right. So, Sam, once again, thank you very much for
Thank
being
you
on the
for
show.
having me, man.
If you're interested in seeing Sam I feel
In person.
I feel safe saying this because you're the one that runs it.
Yeah.
If you want to see Sam in person and see his Imperial Guard and talk more about paint, he is the person who runs the Kill Team.
Kill Team Thursdays
night,
every 6
Thursday
p.m. at
nights
Guardtower
at
East.
Guardtower East.
I will be here. I'm usually here. I feel like they should start charging me rent. Probably. That would be wise. But I'm here all the time. I show up for Magic events. I'm organizing a 40K narrative league right now. So
There we go.
all sorts of good stuff happening at both guard towers.
So
those are where I've made my home.
So there we go. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to go on a short break, and when we come back from break, I'm going to get Sean on here to show off some of his stuff. So we'll be back in about 5 to 7 minutes and 38 seconds, something like that. I don't know, just a spitball. But this is Jolly, and once again, this was our guest Sam.
Thank you for having me,
Thank
Jolly.
you, Sam. And we're going to go to break, and we'll see you here soon. Welcome back. As always, I'm Jolly.
I'm Sean.
And so Sean, he's been on the show before.
I have. We played Dice Throne.
We played Dice Throne, and he's
Another
also
one of those vacations Tony always
one
takes.
of those vacations, one of those adult things. Tony
He's
does,
got stuff to do. Stop play games.
where he's too cool to play games with us all the time.
What a sad life.
but and Sean's also a lot of times behind the camera too, producing. So what we wanted to show off today is what we've got right here. This is one of the things I want to show off that you've put together. Before I have you start talking about it, what I want to do is I want to do a quick kind of just scan through of what we've got here. So this is some terrain that Sean has put together. What is this terrain? What do you use this terrain for specifically?
So everyone knows Barlow, my partner in crime. We have a nickname of Charlo. That's our couple nickname because we like going to events and like, Gen Con and Adepticon, and then we find skirmish games, and then we try to talk all our friends into these skirmish games. Sometimes they're played, sometimes they're not. The excitement's too, like, I think a couple years ago we got one game, and I don't think any of us have even taken them out of the box yet. But sometimes they hit, and one of them is this game called Carnivale, which is a skirmish game by TT Combat that is set in Venice, Italy during 1500. I don't know what the actual date is, but
like a Victorian.
Victorian, yeah, with the masquerade going on, and magic has come into the world, and there are just monsters roaming the canals. Every one of the game is bad. There's not like a good faction at all.
So it's 40K.
Yeah, there is not a good faction at all.
All right. So then the big thing I want you to talk about then individually about the board you've got set up is, first of all, I guess, why did you make the board?
So one of the things I love about miniature gaming is the world itself. And one of the luxuries of skirmish games, other than like a big army game like I play Age of Sigmar and stuff like that, is that you can shrink it down and just take like a section of the world. It helps with immersion. So like when I get into a game, I love being able just to create the world.
Okay.
So when we got into Carnivale, me and Barlow were talking. You mentioned earlier about MDF terrain. So TT Combat makes this Venice terrain to complement their game. And we were just like, you know what, let's just make a 2x2 board. And then first time we worked with epoxy. And we were like, let's just put some epoxy down and try to make like a little canal scene. When we went and bought the terrain, we bought way too much. It was like 75 pounds worth of the MDF terrain. But this is just the first part of it glued together. We plan on building a couple other tables that we're going to be able to
So that you can slide together.
slide together and make a bigger table, yeah.
So, talk about this a little bit. I'm going to hand you the Epoch Cam. Go ahead and walk us through how you choose how to walk us through, but what I wanted to know a little bit more of is what the different parts of the terrain are. You'd mentioned MDF and epoxy, but kind of walk us through what you did to put this board together.
Okay, so the first thing I did was the board itself is just a 2x2 piece of board with some like crown molding or whatever, flipped upside down, and then the wood literally is just glued there.
Okay.
Then once it was together, I left it cure for like 24 hours, something like that. I took Flex Seal around the edge of it before I poured the epoxy, let that dry for like a day, and then we just poured the epoxy. It's really easy, you just put the two together, and then you leave it like overnight. I think we left for 48 hours to make sure.
Just to be sure?
And and then it just hardens like that to this like glassy sheen. Now I did the board underneath, I spray painted green, and I put like some, you can see some brown shading textures and stuff. There's like 3 different colors of green because I want it to actually look like a canal.
Okay.
One thing I wish I would have done is before the epoxy was dry, while the epoxy was drying, was to put like leaves and stuff in it.
So it look like things
So
are
it like
floating
floating in there. These here are just pieces that you can just buy, and they sit on top, and they're called debris. But then everything else, pretty much, except for a couple of the statues and the fountain over here, is made by TT Combat. So these walkways here are made by TT Combat, the bridges, and then all the houses they have. And then these, of course, are the models for Carnivale and the gondola. And everything's made by TT Combat. And the buildings are all MDF. The walkways are MDF.
I was going to say, what's the gondola?
It's resin.
Resin? Okay.
Yeah. I will say, with our models, TT Combat's like resin they're gorgeous models, but they use some of the worst resin. Like nothing sticks to it. You have to like wash it, and
you have to clean it off quite a bit in order to get it to glue together, even.
It was an ordeal. Some of the worst resin I've worked with, but they are gorgeous models. So once you get them up,
Go ahead and show off one of the models.
Yeah. So I play the practitioners, which are basically like the nobles, and they're like the evil nobles. They like run around the city hunting in packs and stuff, and then this is his butler that he gets.
He takes his butler with him?
Yeah, he takes his butler and his, where's his maid? His maid's got a frying pan. He brings his staff with him. But, and then once I got that, I then painted the terrain. I will say MDF, if you've never painted it before, it just eats paint.
Does it absorb it?
Yeah, so you have to prime it. It takes a bunch of coats, and then once you get the coats down, this is all dry brushed.
Okay.
Yeah, everything is dry brushed. And yeah, pretty much that's it. Some of these pieces of terrain, like the statue and this fountain, come from WizKids minis from their D&D line.
Okay.
And then I think this is the Manic Games, their barrels, kits and stuff. Because I like scatter terrain. Mm-hmm. I think something that's like when you're building a scene, scatter terrain is really important. Barrels and crates and debris and stuff like that. But yeah.
Now, how much would you estimate that this board cost to build?
With the terrain and everything?
With the terrain minus the figures for the game
$200
itself.
to $300.
$200 to $300.
Yeah, if I was guessing. Yeah,
Okay.
with all because I think the board itself, like just the wood and stuff, was like $60. The epoxy I think was like $50-$60, which was like, I have enough epoxy now to build Venice, Italy, if I want to. And then the terrain, the MDF terrain added into it is probably without the moss, $200 to $300.
If somebody wanted to make a board about this size, let's say a 2x2, that wasn't necessarily one specific scene like Venice, but a more general thing that they could just put whatever terrain on, how would you suggest they start?
So what I would do is just go to Menards, Home Depot, Lowe's, and just get a 2x2 flat board.
Okay, 2x2
flat board. Yeah, I just got a 2x2, and that's actually the cheapest thing you're going to buy. And then what I would do is, if you want, from there, it depends on how nice you want to make it, right? Like if you want to put like a trim around it. If not, you just have your 2x2 board. Then I would gravel it with like some the random assortment like concrete gravel.
Okay.
That they put in concrete. It's different size rocks and
different
stuff.
size, granular.
Granular, more fine than anything. I would rock the whole board, then I would prime it and then dry brush it.
Now, when you say rock the whole board, what would you use to?
PVA glue works.
PVA glue?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what you want to do is you just put PVA glue down it, you rock it, and then you take PVA glue and water and you put it in a spray bottle, and then you spray it.
So that way it gives it like
it
a seal.
seals again. Yeah, but it's water and seal water. Or you can take a brush with water and go over top of it again. It is messy because the glue's not really holding the rocks, so rocks are going everywhere. But that's kind of the fun part of it, right? Is that because it's messy,
I was about to say making the mess.
It's messy, yeah. And one thing I love painting about painting terrain is that it's kind of mindless a little bit because the majority of it's dry brush. When you got to pick out stuff, you got to start focusing. But you can listen to music, just think about whatever and you're just dry brushing and you get results quickly.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool.
So it's like what Sam was talking about, not quite immediate, but pseudo-immediate gratification.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And also, there's a difference between painting a really fine model and looking at it, then you just got the thing, you're just like kind of talking to you while I'm dry brushing. But yeah, once you get the gravel glued on it, let it set overnight. Just let it 24 hours. Just let it harden, and then that PVA glue actually does a pretty good job where it won't come off.
Okay, that's good.
Then you'll prime it whatever color you want, like black, brown, whatever. Dry brush it a color. Put grass on it if you want.
And then you got yourself a
that's a board.
That looks pretty decent.
2x2 board, yeah.
Awesome.
2x2 board.
So I think that's a good starting place for a lot of people, especially if they're building a home board or something like that, and that you want something that just looks better. Because there's always fold-out boards you can buy, which there's nothing wrong with fold-out boards.
Mats are great.
Mats and fold-out boards are spectacular. We use them all the time on the show,
Yeah.
just because they're easy to transport, and they do end up looking good after you put terrain on them because you have that.
They do, yes.
You have that. Just, it's not a table that you're looking at.
And they are, the thing with the mats and stuff is they do look really good, but you're talking about just getting started. That's the cheapest option is to build your own board.
Yep.
Because I mean, the piece of wood's going to be like $5. The gravel's going to be like $5, and PVA glue is Elmer's glue.
And if you got
Right,
something even this size, if you made a small 2x2, that's even pretty portable, even if it's a board.
Yeah, that's why I like skirmish games a whole lot, is because of how portability.
It's because you can make your awesome boards and then still moving them around.
Yeah, pick it up and carry it with me and everything like that.
Because if you made something like this that was big enough for Age of Sigmar, you wouldn't be able to really move it out of your house.
Oh, no, yeah. So my Age of Sigmar terrain is all the GW terrain you're referring to, but like, when I have a game mat, so you roll out the game mat, but you portably just have to carry the terrain with you. And like, we just had an event at Brewhammer, a big Age of Sigmar event this past weekend, and mine and Barlow's terrain is what they use to fill the tables for our terrain collection.
Wait, so so just to kind of give everybody an idea of how much terrain you have, there were how many players?
40. There were 40 players, so it's 20 tables worth of terrain.
20. So you and Barlow have 20 tables worth of terrain.
Me and Barlow have. That is just the tip of the iceberg. Me and Barlow combined probably have enough terrain to run a 100-man event of Age of Sigmar.
So and that's eventually probably you probably love working your way up to actually running a 100-man event.
But yeah,
wouldn't you?
we probably could run like a 100-man event, but we also have we could run a 20-man 40K event because we have 40K terrain.
Okay.
We have Carnivale terrain. We really like games a whole lot, so we buy.
I can tell a little bit.
We buy and we both. It was lucky that me and him have the idea of we like terrain. I believe terrain actually you play a game. You have your painted minis and everything because I'm a big painted guy.
You are. Yep.
I'm a painted guy just because I believe for me, that's the hobby for me.
That's the hobby, and it also adds to your immersion.
It adds the immersion of the game, right? And it is 1,000 times better if you're playing with nice painted terrain. The game's just better. It's just funner.
You enjoy it more.
It's more enjoyable.
So that's the most basic way to play, and that's the way a lot of people are.
Yeah.
You will get some players that love the game. They love the rules and how the game plays, and so the terrain and the painting is not as important to them, and that's fine for what they like. But then you have lots of players that not only love the game but the hobby aspect of it, like you.
Yes, yeah, I like all of it rolled into one. And one of the big things is like painting. That's why me and Bart will play a bunch of games because even if we don't like the game, because we'll paint up the armies and everything first. We don't play it until it's painted.
So you get to enjoy the hobby aspect of it, even if the game ends up not being great.
And the game is not good. I have painted terrain and a painted gang for D&D, whatever you want to use the models for. So I took the time to actually paint the stuff. That's why we don't play the game unless it's painted, because in that way, because if you play a game beforehand
and it's terrible,
you will never paint. Me and Barlow played Cursed City.
Okay, yep.
And we did not like Cursed City. So now I have a half-painted Cursed City box because we played with the minis that I did have painted, and we didn't enjoy the experience, so we just didn't go back and paint the rest of them. I didn't go back and paint the rest of them.
So then, did you bring anything else to show off today?
No, I just brought Carnivale.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure, because what I want you to tell me now, for the beginning hobby enthusiast who's wanting to get into a miniatures game. So Sam talked about how he would do like introductory painting. What would you recommend if they want to get into all aspects of the game, not just playing the game itself, but also the hobby aspects? What are your top tips or recommendations that you give to somebody who's brand new to it that wants to enjoy the entire aspect?
I would say is if a person is lucky enough, go to your friendly local game store.
Okay.
Just go there, ask questions. 99.9% of the time, they want to talk about the games and everything, and you can find like-minded individuals that can help you get into the hobby. Because we love nothing more than talking. Like you just had Sam talking about his stuff, and he could have talked all night. I could talk about this all night.
I have a feeling you could talk about the terrain.
Yeah, and the terrain and building boards and everything all night. And that is, not like rare at a game store. So that one other, if you're lucky enough to have one in your area, go meet people, get out there. Even if you're a little nervous, don't be. They're all very nice.
Okay.
Also, to piggyback on what Sam say, you want to paint what you like.
Yep.
The minis, especially when you're just getting started into painting and stuff like that. And another one would be like, just don't be intimidated by it. Like it's fun. It's like building, like for terrain and stuff. It's like building models, or airplanes. Those sort of stuff. It's just really fun. You're just getting into it. You will make mistakes. Like this terrain glued together. I think it took me as much as we have. It took me about 5 hours a night for about a week. And to get it all just glued together, and my hands had that soot on it, like you were saying about MDF trains. It was funny. So it's just fun. Like so if you're getting into it, just don't be intimidated by it. Take your time, ask questions, and especially when you first start painting, like Sam was saying, it doesn't like your stuff doesn't have to look like someone who's been painting for 20 years and has won 3 Golden Demons, because it doesn't.
And with that, I wish I could remember who it was. I was reading some article a couple months ago from somebody who is a golden demon level painter, which is like an astounding level of model painter. You look at their models and sometimes they'll look relatively lifelike.
Yeah.
So, but he put together an article talking about don't be intimidated. You're not going to be great at first. It's like anything else.
Yeah.
And he showed his very first model, and his very first model is one of the worst painted models I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's a skill like anything else with practice. Right?
And so he talked about it. He kept it because he says it's a good reminder to him that he has improved. Because even as a golden demon level painter, he sometimes forgets that he has improved, because he has days also where he's like, man, I didn't paint this as well as I feel like I should have been able to. He goes back and looks at that model and he goes, but I've come a long ways. He was painting, his model was like thick layers of paint on it with most of the detail gone. It was like 3 colors. It looked like a preschooler coloring something. Like you could tell the eyes were supposed to be here, but the paint was all over here. So,
yeah, but it's fun. It's a fun hobby. It really is. And your stuff's your stuff, right? Like so, like it's pretty cool when you have your painted stuff and my painted stuff at the cross of each other at the table and telling a story.
So, what's your favorite setting?
My favorite setting is Age of Sigmar.
Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, my favorite setting is Age of Sigmar, and it's funny because I went the other way because I played Warhammer Fantasy since 4th edition. And I liked every edition of it. I loved 8th edition, and then Sigmar came around, and a lot of people just don't like the fluff of Sigmar in the beginning. I did. It kind of spoke to me because.
So you were into it right off the bat.
I got into it day one.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were going to say you were one of the people who was completely against it. Like everything's staying on a square base. We're doing rank and file.
No, I pop my models off on round bases. Ever onward. I'm always ever onward. Let's move on. And it was, the fluff itself for me captured me because it was like, GW's Grimdark. That's what they are. And granted, we're in 3 editions now, and they have steered the story Grimdark. But in the beginning, it was Sigmar basically sending his lightning angels. The good guys were coming from the heavens to fight back chaos, and that's what 1st edition was. And now, granted, there's now darkness and all kinds all that GW stuff they added to it. But I do enjoy the idea of the good guys taking the fight to the bad guys.
So then I've asked you this before. I don't remember if I've asked you this on show last time you were on, but how much? And I knew you were going to say Age of Sigmar for favorite setting.
Let's see.
I want to know how much Age of Sigmar stuff do you have painted up? Just so people have an idea of how much you love this setting.
Okay, so Stormcast have been my favorite. I played it since the beginning. I probably have, 20,000 points worth of Stormcast painted.
And 20,000 points in Age of Sigmar, about how many models have you were to
guess?
Oh,
I couldn't tell you. It's a lot. It's a lot of models. It's quite a bit of models. I have a full Beastman army for my 8th edition days. I had Sylvaneth, and I have a Sylvaneth army. Well, I did. I got a buddy using it now, and I have. I had a Gloomspite army at one time. I had a Khorne army at one time.
So you've gone through quite a bit of armies.
I have, but the thing is, I always come back to Stormcast. So like, I'll play like one game, and I go, probably should.
They're not my boys.
Man,
huh?
I wish I was playing Stormcast right now as I'm removing one wound models. I'm like, what do you mean I have to remove them one per one?
That was just one damage. What's going on?
That's not how that works. Like, come on. But yeah, no, I have quite a bit, and including all my games. Like, we're getting into Conquest. I don't know if you've heard Conquest.
I've got Conquest. Actually, I'm talking with a buddy. I just talked with a friend because I have a friend back from my high school days who's Stone Shock. Actually, he's coming up this Sunday. We're going to play Marvel Crisis Protocol here at East.
Love that game too.
And we're also going to play Bloodfields, the one where where their whole shtick is we made the game, we sell the STLs, you print out the models yourself. So we're going to play those two games here Sunday because he's coming up this way because he loves playing games and he's the guy that I talk to a lot during the week. But Conquest is one, when I got back from Gen Con, I was like, have you heard of Conquest? And he's like, no, what is it? I was like, it has awesome looking models.
It does, and they're releasing, I think, City States is sometime this month.
Oh, you know what? You just reminded me. I pre-ordered that. I forgot all about that. I
Yeah.
pre-ordered that. Yeah, because when I saw that pre-order goes up, I'm like, I really shouldn't because I haven't actually finished assembling my stuff that I have. I was like, but those City States are great, and it's a new 2-player box that also comes with
2 exclusive figs in it.
Yep, and I was just like, it was kind of like the whole thing. I'm going to get them put together. I'm going to get them table ready. And even if I end up not liking the game because I haven't actually played the game yet, they are models that I can use for other stuff because I do lots of role-playing stuff.
And what's cool about it, too, is with Conquest, the Parabellum's done, is it's two games in one, right?
Actually, the skirmish game is more what I'm...
I wouldn't say, like... I wouldn't use the word skirmish game. I know they do, because it's more squad, kind of like War Machine was,
I was
where
about
you
to
had
say,
like a squad.
It's smaller squad-based games is what
it's
it looks
smaller,
like.
yeah, but you probably have, I don't know, 14 to 20 models probably depending on, but you can take anything out of the game, though.
Yeah, and that's the one of the things I was looking at when I heard that they had the skirmish game, and at Gen Con I was not impressed by the skirmish game, but that's just because a bunch of their demoers were also new to it, didn't know how to show it off, and the parts of it they were showing off were kind of like the redundant parts that are in every game.
And that's the one thing too is they actually do keep up with it with facts and stuff like that, and it's awesome that they keep on top because I remember back in the day playing old fantasy or something like that. It'd be 7 years or something before they fix something or something gets addressed.
With 40K, when I used to play, you would wait for the once-a-year publication, the chapter-approved publication to come out to address issues that have been since day one of a codex.
But I kind of think it's a double-edged sword though, because what happens is you're constantly changing it in the fact and everything. Like I have Conquest's first book. 1.0, 1.5 book, and now I think they're coming out with 2.0. I think there's First Blood 2 and now Conquest 2.0, which are coming out with rule books too. And so like,
they do have to be careful of that because I remember that's pretty much what killed the game Confrontation by Rackham. Was they went through 3 full editions in 1 year. Did you ever play?
Dude, Confrontation.
Confrontation was fun.
Confrontation is arguably, in my opinion, the best skirmish game.
It was an amazing skirmish game, and even more memorable from that time was the models were by far and large the best models you could buy.
The models are unbelievable. So, and what's great about it, I mean, you're talking over 20 years. Those models still hold up today.
Oh yeah, they look fantastic, and I think rumors I heard was that their models were what kind of kicked the GW into gear to update a bunch of their plastics and everything. Because the rumor I heard is that basically everybody's talking about how great the Rackham models were, and I don't think Rackham's even around anymore, is it?
No, they're not.
How great the Rackham models were, and the higher-ups at GW literally said, why are we being outdone by this company who's like a fraction of our size?
Yep.
And so that's about the time that you saw the GW plastics like start go from like solid plastics to phenomenal.
Just out of this world, yeah. Dynamic, they're dynamic now. So they have dynamic poses and stuff. But Confrontations, So you're like me.
Games, lots of games.
Lots of games. I'll try anything. If it has minis in it, I will try anything. I really will. Like we were talking about Zim Vader.
Yep.
Got that little Chinese takeout starter box that they give you. It comes in a Chinese
Yep.
takeout container.
I remember that one from Gen Con. I tried it out. It was fun.
Yeah, no, yeah. We'll be walking around Gen Con. They're like, "Hey, I got some minis. Come on over." We're like, "All right."
Yeah. That's why I spent my day doing, looking around for like just minis games, specifically ones I had never seen or heard of before. Which that's a great thing about Gen Con. There's tons of them there. You're going to
100%.
find, regardless of how learned you are or how wide your knowledge pool is of games, you're going to Gen Con and you're going to see things you're like,
Yeah,
what is
because
that?
there's independent people, and stuff
And it's
like
fantastic. That's where that Reign Absolute game, that little card game that was Stratego-like that me and Tony played, Gen Con. Saw that there.
Oh yeah, if you can make it to those like Gen Con and Origins and stuff, especially Gen Con's the big one, right?
Gen Con's the big one.
Adepticon if you like minis, if you can get up to Schaumburg, we're actually going out there. But if you like minis, Adepticon, Gen Con is just the industry as a whole.
Yeah,
right?
it's the whole thing. Origins is more board games.
Origins more.
You'll
board
get
games,
some
yeah.
miniature stuff at Origins, but it focuses a large.
I'm actually starting to get into board games that have miniatures in them.
Yep.
Like I picked up Zombicide Black Plague, and I'm looking at Shadows of Brimstone right now, and because like I said, I like the world in a box, and that's what those board games are. It's literally like, here's the box, here's a bunch of minis, boards, tokens, here's the world. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
They're fun. I've been into those types of games for quite a while. I love them. If for no other reason, like the same reason I'm fine with pre-ordering the Conquest stuff, even though I haven't played the game yet. I use the minis for other things. When I used to work for public libraries, I would run like D&D games for teens and stuff, and I would just bring in like a big box of minis, and I'd be like, these are just random minis I have. Guys, pick out one that you would like to be as your character, and they'd be like, oh, these ones are cool. I was like, sweet, guess what? Keep them. They're like, They're like, what? I was like, this is my box of extra minis. They're like, there's like 1,000 minis there. I'm like, you don't understand how big of a nerd I am.
We got so my nieces and nephews are getting into D&D. Like my oldest niece is starting to get in there, and so I have Bones Kickstarter 1 and 2, and they're just in tubs. Like, so it's literally just like, yeah, here's your D&D characters and monsters, dump on the table.
Yep.
It's like pick the ones you want. But yeah.
All right. Last question then, before we're done. If somebody came into the store today and said, I am interested in playing a miniatures game of some kind.
Okay.
And they said they just want something that has a player base around the area.
Here in Columbus,
anywhere. We'll say
because each game store is going to have a different. Yeah.
Let's say they're based in Columbus.
Okay.
But they have friends in different parts of the country that they want to try to get into the game. So it'd be best if it was a game that's more widespread. And what would you recommend?
So I would ask. So if they were looking for an army game, you cannot go wrong with Sigmar 40K.
Okay.
Because that's a universal game. It's the biggest game company probably in the world. Everyone knows pretty much what Games Workshop is if they're in the game store or whatever. And if you're looking to get miniatures that way. If you're looking for a skirmish type game, I am a big fan of. We're getting ready to start Frostgrave.
Okay.
I find Frostgrave fun because it's miniature agnostic. And so you can play with the minis that you like, and that goes back to like paint the minis you like, right? Because then you could just paint the 10 minis you like and be like, this is my game for Frostgrave. I am a huge, currently, I said Confrontation is my favorite skirmish game, probably ever or whatever, but currently in print, my favorite skirmish game is Relic Blade. I find that game just amazing. So I would tell them to check out that if they're looking for a skirmish game.
Well, here in a few weeks, we're going to be revisiting Relic Blade on Table Ready here. And I just recently received all of the stuff from the most recent Kickstarter because I went full in on the most recent Kickstarter. Because I agree with you, I love that game.
That has like the weird eye and everything.
Weird eye and everything. So I'm going to paint those up and have those ready for that. So we can show off the new stuff from Relic Blade.
Yeah, that's that stuff. So like the skirmish games, Relic Blade, you just can't go wrong. Locally, if you're looking for, like I said, the main two games, Legion's really big. We got a couple of Song of Ice and Fire groups. There's so many minis out there, right? Like, and for the most part, you can find a group to play with. But Yeah, I guess it's like what the person likes is aesthetic-wise. I'd have to give them a questionnaire and shoot a bunch of questions at them, I guess.
Okay.
Narrow it down for them.
So the good news is if you're looking to get into a game, either for the first time or just a new one, revisiting, or you just want something brand new, you got plenty of options.
We are in a renaissance period of games, and I think it's just like Kickstarter, and then all these games have come out. Like people have been making these. And it's easier for an independent person to make a game, like Sean Sutter from Relic Blade or something like that.
Yeah, because the Relic
Because he can Kickstarter.
Relic Blade is made by one guy.
Yeah, it's one guy. He
He
designs
does
the
everything.
whole thing.
One of his friends, close friends, helps him with some of the kind of advertising and stuff. But as far as the design of the game itself, the minis and all the production, it's just him.
Yep. And it's a 2x2 board too, so
Yep.
you can easily fill it up with nice terrain.
So you can make one of these.
Yeah, you absolutely can make one of these, and that game it's very fantasy, like like anything D&D, right? You can make woods, you can make it doesn't matter. Like so the boards for that type of game would be infinite. Like you can make anything you want.
And if you want to see some more fantastic looking boards in addition to what we have here from Sean, look up Relic Blade.
Yeah.
Because there are lots of pictures up recently from people getting Kickstarter stuff showing off their awesome boards.
Yeah, if you look at Relic Blade, I think his Facebook group is Relic Blade Official Battle Friends. I believe is like their official. If those guys on there, guys and girls on there, their boards are amazing. Like if you just want to see awesome boards,
they are absolutely fantastic.
No.
Not to mention that some of the paint jobs and the models are really awesome. We have somebody locally who plays it, who does like a cell shaded comic style paint job. Phenomenal looking. It fits that setting just right because that's the art style that the creator uses is that heavy black line comic style.
Yeah, we got in that's been the game that. Like you say, you invite friends to play it, and you'll get 4 or 5. We're like, I'll try it out. That game, I think there's like 14 or 15 of us that was just ordered the stuff, got it, and it was we all were thoroughly enjoying it.
Low key, not really low key. One of my favorite things about skirmish games is the low model count you need.
Yeah.
Because I am one of those people who likes to play as many different factions and armies as I can, just because I enjoy the varied play styles. So if I were to play something like 40K or Age of Sigmar, that gets really expensive. Not to mention, I can't put together and paint all that stuff in a reasonable amount of time. Skirmish games, like for Relic Blade, I could order 15 models, and that's enough for 6 or 7 different war bands for that.
What's great about skirmish games too, in that regard, is because of the low model count, you could easily paint up 1 model a week.
Yeah.
Right, and 1 or 2 models a week. And then you bring it to your next game night, and it totally changes your army. Like your army has shifted because you just added 2 more models and took out models, and that's what's great about skirmish games. You can get a model done in a week, whereas those larger games you have to paint up a whole unit. So you might be able to get it done in a week. It might take you 2 or 3 weeks to a month.
And talking from experience, when you're on a budget, even though you enjoy the hobby aspect of painting up something. It is really disappointing when you put in time to a unit and you're on a budget and you're just kind of like, this was the thing I got to buy for the next couple months, and you play it and it's just a letdown on the board.
Yeah, that's one of those things with
you got to enjoy painting it and putting together everything, but skirmish game, you're like, my one model, he didn't work out so well. But I got him painted up nice and well, and next time I'll just try a different one.
That's what I'm saying. Like we were talking earlier, this board here is probably, a little bit more expensive than, half a 40K RV or an Age of Sigmar RV, right? Like, and that's the board, terrain, everything with it. And you're talking like, it's 2 Vanguard boxes, right, from GW. But yeah, that's one of the great things about skirmish games. That's why I like skirmish games.
All right, Sean. So any final words you want to give to the audience, the viewers, the people who are interested in all the hobby stuff that we both love?
Yeah, but I think I'm going to piggyback off Sam. Just don't be intimidated. Just do it. Like, if you want to get into it, go to your friendly local game store, and they will get you sorted out. I promise you. 99.9% of FLGSs are awesome. The people who work there know what they're talking about, and they're very excited to share the hobby with people.
Yep, because that's one of the things. If there is a friendly local game store that has been in your area for a while, they've been around for a while because they are a good place to go to.
They are, yeah, absolutely. They're a great resource. The people there are, one thing you said like nerds like doing is talking about their whatever their fandom is.
We made a show because we like showing off and talking
Yeah,
about
that's what
stuff.
I'm saying. Like, I don't know how long I've been prattling on here, but like, we could keep going. But like,
We can make this a 24-hour marathon probably.
I'm just talking about
the only
games and
time
stuff.
the only time it would go on break is if we needed food or the bathroom.
Yeah, what you need is one time is just get Barlow
Back here. So,
dude,
well, you were telling me
he
he's like an
would.
encyclopedia of knowledge as far as all that stuff goes.
I don't know if there's enough. I think he's making up stuff because there's not enough hours in the day for him to play as many games as he plays. Like, so he's either just, I don't know.
Maybe he plays them in his dreams too.
He has to.
It's just a thing. He's like, all right, I'm all set. Tonight is
what's-
going to be an Age of Sigmar dream.
What's that Queen's Gambit where everything's going on the top of the
Yeah.
ceiling where she's like dozing on? Yeah, that's what happens with Barlow. Like, when games just fly by him at all times.
But we do need to get him on the show at some point.
Yeah, and, dude, you can talk about any game system you want. His favorite's role playing, but
I'm gonna say maybe we have him on the same episode we do the paint competition because then we have like a trivia, Barlow's trivia.
Barlow's trivia. I tell you what you need to do is because he's Lord of the Rings guy.
Okay.
He's big Lord of the Rings guy. Is what is that? Not John Oliver. Who's the guy that tries to Steve Carell? What's the Stephen Colbert?
Okay, Steve.
He's where they come on and try to
Yep.
trump him. Dude, it's hard to do it to him, Barlow too, with Lord of the Rings questions. He's the same way. Like,
Okay.
he knows like yeah.
So it sounds like probably after we get through, we got 6 weeks of games coming up.
Yeah.
We've got miniature games coming up, Relic Blade, Warcry.
I recommend sometime you try Lord of the Rings Battle Companies and have him on.
Battle Companies?
Battle Companies. So it's the Middle Earth strategy game, but it's a small skirmish version of it.
Okay, is it the one that's like...
It's
not the 10
game-
millimeter one. It's not
no,
the
no.
Battle for Middle Earth.
That's
Okay.
that Battle of 5 Armies. That's like he loves that game. But no, it's the Lord of the Rings strategy battle game by Games Workshop.
Okay.
They have a skirmish version. It's called Battle Companies.
I didn't know they had a skirmish version
Yeah,
of
so
it.
you bring individual figs, and I think it's like 7 figs, 7, 8, 10 figs.
I didn't even know
Yeah,
that
it's called
was a
Battle
thing that
Companies.
existed. I knew they had the Middle Earth game, the full like unit game and everything. I didn't know they had a skirmish version.
Yeah,
of it.
and if you ever want to do that too, I have some 2x2 boards that would fit perfectly. I may or may not have Gondor and Rohan.
Well, it sounds like I thought we had the next 6 weeks planned out. It sounds like we've got plenty of stuff to easily cover much longer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You have such a pool of people to pull from just your local game stores and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You can. This thing's going to go on forever.
I like the idea of that. I mean, I pitched you the idea of a show because this stuff is fun.
Yeah, it
I
absolutely
love-
is fun. It's great, man. Just like we've been sitting here just talking about it, and you had me on, Sam on. You got like you said, it's your look, Tony.
We got Tony, originally when I pitched the idea of the show, we didn't even have Tony as a host. Tony was just available the first week, and I was like, hey, do you want to hop on the show and be like a guest person? But then it ended up working really well. And
Yeah,
Tony being the...
For people who don't know, Tony's actually the community coordinator for our Guardtower East location. Like he does games and builds communities, and everything like that. So he is great at game. Like
So yeah, getting him on the show after that first week, that's when I was kind of like, hey, Tony, do you want to keep on doing this?
Yeah.
And it was his... Wednesdays was his night off. He changed his schedule so that way he's here for the show and everything. But it was his night off, but he's like, you know what? I think I can because my wife has a class for a degree she's working on. So, yeah, I could show up. And then, so he kind of like was like, yeah, you got this. I'm going to go do this. And he loves it. He was pretty disappointed the couple weeks we were on hiatus because of technical difficulties and me being sick and stuff.
Yeah. But did you tell him? Did you mention this new studio that's coming up?
No, I'll let you go ahead and mention it.
So a couple things we're really excited about is we're at let's see, what's the date? I think it's 2 weeks from now.
And it should be 2 weeks from now from what you said.
2 weeks from now, hopefully. Now, granted, life happens, things happen.
Technical difficulties happen. We've got the screen for it.
Yeah, it's all right. We're building an actual studio, I'm saying we're building it like the Guardtower's building it, but there's this guy that we've contracted. He's basically built it from scratch, and it's amazing. Like it looks really good. And that should be up and running where all our stuff will be shot from there. Also, on this Twitch channel, starting on the 19th, we're going to have a Sunday live stream called the Dune of Granite Guard. And it is a D&D role-playing kind of stream. And what they have planned is it's must-see TV.
And the great thing is about it is everybody who's taking place in it is somebody from the community.
Yes, yeah, they audition. Yep. They audition within local, and they got local people, and then like all kinds of people have helped out. Like, he's got a guy who's doing like the coordinating, with like Discord and everything like that. And we'll have to leave the links of all their contact stuff in the description below. But yeah, no, that should start up. Their go date is the 19th, and then the Wednesday after should be you in the new studio.
We get to be in the new studio.
Should be you in the new studio.
Which means we'll get to start trying new things. Instead of having to worry about setting up our equipment every week, we can try out new things like Clay had mentioned, animations and soundboards and everything.
Yeah, we try because it is a professional studio. This guy that has dedicated, he's put a lot of effort and knows exactly what he's doing and talking about.
A professional studio for the professionals.
That's Sunday night. Sunday night's the professional night. This is like
hey,
semi-professional.
Don't talk bad about Tropic Thunder like that. Or not Tropic Thunder. What was it? What was Will Ferrell's basketball team?
The Tropics.
The Tropics. It was just the Tropics. Yeah.
We're just,
don't talk bad about
the
Tropics.
We're the Tropics. They're like the NBA team. Yeah, we're just the Tropics. We're the semi-professional team.
We're the entertaining thing to watch partway through your week, so that way you feel better about it. So when being partway through the week,
so you can see professionals do stuff on Sundays.
Yeah, they're on Sundays to make you feel better about it being the end of the weekend and entering the work week. We're on Wednesdays to give you a reason to get halfway through the work week.
That's what I'm saying. And I can't give away anything, but it is. What they have planned and have going it's impressive.
Awesome.
It's going to be very impressive.
So we got that coming up. So that means soon on the Twitch channel, and we're going to have two shows.
Wednesdays and Sundays.
Spectacular.
And then, hopefully
it's like we're becoming a network.
That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to once we get everything settled in, we're going to try to do some battle reports on the nights out because it's at our West locations where we built the studio. But we're going to try to do Monday nights are Sigmar nights. So maybe just stream a battle report, and Tuesday nights is 40K night, stream a battle report, and then that way 5-6 nights a week we'll have
content.
Something on. Yeah, people are bored and sitting at home, they can tune in.
We'll give you reasons to be patient in between the time where you get to watch me and Tony.
That's right, yeah. But listen, we all know what the first show was on Guardtower Games, right?
The first show,
it was you.
It was Table Ready.
Table Ready.
Oh, and Sean.
The legacy.
I remember when I gave you the pitch, you said there's one thing you always wanted to hear that I forgot to tell you, so I'm going to say it right now. Right. This show, we're going to make all your dreams come true, Sean.
Make our dreams... I said, make my dreams come true, Jolli. I needed a PowerPoint.
I got the PowerPoint for you.
I said, if I'm having a presentation, I need a PowerPoint, and I want you to say, and your dreams come true.
So I made the PowerPoint, forgot to say the dreams come true, so I just added that right now.
Yeah.
So now we're complete. All right, Sean, thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I appreciate you bringing your board and everything to show off, man. And also just coming on the show to talk.
Anytime, brother.
All right, so next week on Table Ready, we're going to be back to playing some games. Tony will be back, and me and him are going to revisit Warcry. He's got his skinks fully painted, and I've got 3 painted warbands. I'm trying to decide which one, but I'm thinking I'm going to lean towards the dwarves because they're done being painted now.
Do you have one of the actual warbands for
I do.
Painted? It's usually the better one.
It is, but the dwarves are considered underpowered compared to everything, and they're little stubby dwarves, and they're my favorite things ever.
Okay, play with what you want. I believe Warcry has the thing where the war bands are balanced against each other, and then the 1,500 war scrolls or whatever, they went, hey, we need to make rules for these two. It's not.
See, having played a bunch of Warcry, the thing I think is I think they're all balanced if you get model choices with the original warbands. So the bespoken warbands, they come in a box. You get your models in there.
Okay.
If you have 2 boxes and then some allies, I think they balance very well against the Age of Sigmar ones.
Okay.
The Age of Sigmar ones, you just have the thing where you're like, oh, I buy whichever models I want. So you kind of, even if you're not meaning to, you kind of tailor a list that's better than just the out of the box.
Out of the
list.
box stuff. Okay,
So
fair enough.
that's the biggest thing here. And my dwarves, they're slow, they're stubby, they're not great, but I love them. And they're the first warband I painted up, so I'm probably going to bring them.
Fair enough.
All right, so that's next week, Warcry, and then Tony will be back. Right, Tony? You'll be back.
Please come back.
We miss you. Don't. It's on camera now that I said that, so I have to live up to it.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Our day
All
was
right.
a little less brighter.
So, I'm Jolly,
I'm Sean.
and this was Table Ready. You have a great one.